It's your boy Enigma back with another Mind of a Black Author review or perspective, I guess I should say. And yes, I am on video. I'm not a video person. I don't like video. I normally would prefer to do it just audio, but I've been told I need to go ahead and start putting some of this stuff on video. And so this will be my first official episode with the Mind of a Black Author perspective. And today we're going to study my book, Promiscuous Love, the murder of Natalie Little. And should have had this up right here. And I just recently checked out this book. And for those who, this is your first time checking me out, what a perspective episode is basically I go into a little more background of some of the works that I've written. This particular one I've written, it started off as a screenplay like most of my works did, and it evolved into the novel that I have right now. It is a published novel, and it is available on Amazon via Kindle and paperback, as you can see there. And so I want to jump into the characters because that's what makes this book unique. So the main character of the book is Natalie Little. And I know you're saying, how is Natalie the main character when in the title it shows that she's murdered? Well, this book takes place, it starts off basically with two police officers or detectives, whatever you want to call them. They're investigating her murder. And much of the story is actually told by the characters that she knew. So a lot of the backstory of Natalie we get with some of the characters that knew her best. The police, they arrest Keith, who is basically her lover at the time. She was having an affair with him. He's married, so he obviously was cheating on his wife with her. And this is basically how the story starts. And I'm not going to go into too much plot details because I do want people who haven't read the book to still go out there and check it out. But I will touch base on a few things that will kind of give you a little backdrop of this. Now, I don't remember when I decided to write this script because, like I said, this started off as a screenplay. And when I wrote it, I was really trying to do a mystery novel. And I like doing mystery novels. I like doing mystery, themes and things like that. But I like to write mysteries or watch mysteries or read about mysteries where you actually have a chance to figure out who actually did it. Like that Green Onion movie that just recently came out. I did a review on it on my other podcast, which is Past or Present, where I do kind of the movies and things. And one of the things I hated about that movie is you never had a chance to solve it because there's some information that they are leaving behind. So it really wasn't able, we really weren't able as fans to actually solve the mystery because there was some information that they did not add to the plot. So it really wasn't a mystery movie to me. It was more of a movie, so if you don't give all the information, then you can't figure out who did it. Well, in this book here, I left subtle clues around in the book, and you can really figure out who did it. And if you're really paying attention, it shouldn't be that difficult. But I will give you a couple of the suspects in the book. And, did they do it? It may be somebody, just random. Who knows? But there are ways to figure out who actually did it. So the first suspect in the book is Keith. Keith is the one who basically was with her last. They had a hellified argument in the middle of the apartment complex, and all her friends, well, not friends, but all the other apartment folks actually recorded the argument. He threatened her, and et cetera, and that's where we left off at. And, that one could be the obvious one. That's basically detectives Kimball and Carter who are working the case. That's who they think did it, and they have him arrested, and they're questioning him. So a lot of the story he's actually telling about how he met Natalie and, things of that nature. And so he's the main suspect. Another suspect is actually her former boyfriend, Jamal. And he was an abusive person, beat her all the time. So he has a tendency to do things that could probably lead up to this. So he's another person that people are actually looking at, the police are actually looking at to see if he had any involvement. Another suspect, of course, is Keith's wife, Dana, because she would have all the motive in the world. She found out that her husband was cheating. And, did she take the law into her own hands? Was she involved with this? Did she even know about it? So you have to think about that. The police are also investigating her. And another person they're investigating, or trying to investigate anyway, is Jasmine, who was Natalie's girlfriend prior to Keith and her hooking up. But she's missing. They can't find her. So she's disappeared. So they're working the case as they can. Right now, the only person they're holding is Keith because of the video evidence and the threats that he made. Now, when I wrote this book, I wasn't really trying to, just basically rebuild the whole mystery model. What I wanted to do is actually tell the tale of a woman who died. She's already dead when the book starts. And her murder is in the title of the book, so I'm not spoiling anything with that. And really, you get to see her life. So this is why she's the main character, because the characters that are explaining things to the police or talking about her or whatever, they're talking about her in the past sense, and we get to see her as they saw her. So this is the reason why I decided to go that route. I wanted to have her be the main character without even being alive. So that is crazy. It was a new one for me. And the thing about Natalie, which you'll learn as you read on with the book, I love the character. I hate the person. Because Natalie was the type of person who basically used guys for sex. Let's just be honest. She used guys for sex, and then she took that sex once she figured out what they're into and used it to her advantage, basically having leverage against them, basically, taking control of the situation. She's similar to Sade, who is in the Side Chick Chronicles book. Matter of fact, I'm going to give you a little trivia hint here. There's 2 times this actually comes up in the Enigmaverse. So if this is your first time hearing about the Enigmaverse, the Enigmaverse is all of my books are all in one universe. Even the sci-fi books are connected somehow to the entire Enigmaverse. So there's always a little line or two that can connect. And really my true readers would catch some of these. So this book was actually brought up in 2 different books. So Devoted Reality was the reality show based book. And one of the characters, when they were talking about the best sex they ever had besides their wife, he talks about this girl that he met and she ended up getting murdered. He's talking about Natalie. Okay, so that book clearly happens after this book. But he's talking about Natalie, so that was the first mention. And then the second mention is in the Side Chick Chronicles, like I was talking about, where Sade says she misses her friend Natalie because they were on the same type of deal with guys, basically using them to get what they want. But there are differences between the two. And one of the main differences is Sade was more disciplined. And Sade didn't need the money. She just liked to play the game. Whereas Natalie was more desperate and she did whatever she had to do to survive. I mean, some people may get upset with that. I mean, it is what it is. She used sex basically to survive. She needed money, have sex. She needed a place to stay, have sex. And one of the things that's just so funny with her is, and Jamal, when he's being interviewed by one of the police, tells a story. One of his homeboys actually was getting with her at one point in time, and he mentioned that, this certain fetish that he likes where women urinate on him. He loves it. And I know it's kind of nasty, but he loves it. And when he introduced it to Natalie, she was like, "Oh, that's nasty. I can't believe you're into that kink, blah, blah, blah." But then when he makes it over to her apartment to have sex, she already has the bed with the plastic on there and everything else. She's already set up for it. And a similar situation happens at the beginning of the book where Natalie meets Keith and he talks about his foot fetish. She's like, "Oh, that's kind of kinky. That's But then she uses it to her advantage when they have sex. So initially, your thought is that she's basically making this stuff up. And it is. She is promiscuous for a reason. She talked about how she tried to figure out how many guys she ever had sex with. She got up to 85 names and then she stopped. So, that's a lot of people. So she has a lot of experience with sex. And because of that, there's really not much that you can throw at her with sex, but she even has a little drawer next to her bed called the pleasure drawer or something like that, which supposedly you can find any type of fetish thing in there for it. Meaning, sex to her isn't necessarily about pleasure, it's more about control. And what she did to Jamal at one time, so Another story that Jamal talks about is she kind of embarrassed him in front of his friends, talking about his manhood, small and blah, 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 and going off on him, making him look like a clown. And so when he gets home later that day, he's ready to just knock her out because he is an abusive man. And she has this lingerie thing on there, and he kind of likes to be dominated and likes to have his midsection kind of, yeah, you got to read the book. I don't want to say, I'm trying to keep it PG for a lot of folks online. But anyways, he goes from ready to beat her down to getting pleasured by her, and she takes control of it, and that is what she does. She knew that sex would fix any problems that they had in their relationship, and she used that to gain leverage between anybody she dealt with. And so this is why I don't like her as a person. I love her as a character. I hate her as a person. And as the story goes on, you start to get a lot of background on her, especially with her mother. You can tell that a lot of things that she's gone through in her life stems from her relationship with her mother. Her mother is just as promiscuous as she was. Matter of fact, she had a boyfriend who actually, I don't want to say, well, yeah, I mean, it's not a good story. So basically, her mother had a boyfriend who actually sexually abused her while she was 13, and he continued to do it. Her mother never really did anything about it until the guy ran out of money. She was dating him for the money, and then once he lost his job and didn't have the money, now all of a sudden she wants to alert the police that, hey, he's been molesting my daughter and stuff like that. Well, she let it go all through those times. So with a background like that, you knew she was going to grow up messed up. And she still is the way that she is because of that. She doesn't know how to find love. Every person that she's been with the exception of Keith, has abused her, has beat on her or whatever, because she does have a slick mouth. Don't get me wrong. She really does have a slick mouth. She likes to go for the jugular when she's arguing with people, and it leads to that. Now, me personally, there is no reason to ever hit a woman. And, but she kind of presses that button. She does it on purpose, and then she uses sex to kind of make up for all of that. So it is what it is with that. Now, as far as Keith is concerned, who is the other main character, he's married. He's been married, I believe it was 15 years. And of course, the marriage has kind of lost its luster a little bit. And what he's doing is he's finding what he's not getting from his wife, from Natalie. So if you watch the movie, Why Did I Get Married? They always talk about the 80-20 rule. And he's looking at the 20% rule now with Natalie, because that's the 20% that he's not getting from his wife. With his wife, he's getting stability. He's getting a woman who's making good money. She's a nurse, but she's also always busy. She's always getting called off and things like that. So the passion has kind of left their marriage, and they're really having issues communicating with each other. Well, he's never done this before. He's never cheated on her until he meets Natalie, and he just saw Natalie, and he just was like, oh my God, I got to talk to this girl. Ends up getting with her. They end up having sex. And the funny thing about that is Natalie says she's never done it too. And when I'm talking about done it with a married man, she's obviously had sex, but just not with a married man. Now, I left it open to interpretation, but if you know Sade from the Side Chick Chronicles, she only sleeps with married men. That's her goal. She wants to basically get as much money as she can out of them before breaking it off. She's disciplined, like I said. Whereas Natalie isn't disciplined. So I believe that Natalie has done this before. It's just telling Keith what he wants to hear, just to make him feel special. So you can take that as you want it. But Keith, on the other hand, he never really has done it before. He's never cheated on his wife. And this goes on for a few months before she ends up dead. And, people who've been married before, they get to that point in marriage where some things may be flat, and instead of working it out or things like that, this leads to them cheating. And this is what happens with him. He gets into basically a crazy situation. Now, I understand that, he really wasn't feeling his wife at the time, but there's other ways they could have dealt with it. He's at the point in marriage where the wife isn't doing those things that attracted him in the first place. So, she's got the bonnet on her head. She's got the loose clothing. She's not doing the sexy thing. Hair is probably all crazy and stuff like that. It happens in marriages. It happens on the guy side too. They get out of shape. They're not wooing their wife like they used to when they were dating, bringing her on dates and surprising her and things like that. And so it happens both ways in marriage. And they are at the point where they're basically disconnected. Basically, they're following their careers. She's a nurse, he works in real estate. And so when you have that type of situation, you tend to kind of lose that passion or that luster for each other, and it becomes stale. And when he sees her and he's able to actually get with Natalie, that kind of reignites something in him, but that's the 20%. He doesn't want to mess with the 80% because she is bringing in money. She is stable, is his wife for 15 years. He doesn't want to fool with that, but he wants to have that 20% as well. So that's basically the relationship and the reason why he did what he did. Now, did he kill her? That depends on the story, and you'd have to read the story to see if you think he killed her or if you think somebody else did. But overall, writing this book was just more of a I don't know, it was just, I really wanted to do a mystery, but I have a problem. I didn't want to do too much of it to where I'm being obvious, but then I also didn't want to do too much to make it too complex. Really, this is a passionate love story. There's a lot of sex scenes on there, and it shows what she's bringing to the table for Keith. And when she starts to get into her feelings over it and everything, which of course is a Sade no-no, it breaks off into a situation to where, she may be murdered for that reason alone. The fact that he's not going to leave his wife, she may feel that, hey, if I take out your wife or get rid of your wife, then you can come to me. So, things like that happens. But it's all a great story from beginning to end. If you like murder mysteries, you'll like this. There is a few sex scenes, but I'm not an erotic novel person, so the sex scenes were there just to show what basically drew him in, if that makes sense. But yes, Promiscuous Love, The Murder of Natalie Little, it is available. You really do need to check it out. I love the character, like I said. She's an evil character. I don't like her as a person, but I do love the actual character that was written in there. But that's just my opinion on the matter. What are your thoughts? Have you read the book? Did you enjoy the book? Do you think that Natalie is a good person, or do you think that she's trash like I do? Did you figure out who it is? Now, I will tell you, this is one of my shorter books. It's only about 50,000 words, I want to say. And you'll find out who the killer is in chapter 9. So chapter 9 is what you have until. So from 1 to 8, you have to figure out, do you know who the murderer is? Because chapter 9 is going to reveal it. I will spoil that much of it. And really, I will give you another background tip on this. The script itself ends at chapter 9. So after chapter 9, everything that happens at the end of chapter 9, that was the end of the script. I added a chapter 10 in there for just the novel purposes, so that part wasn't in there. So when you read this, read up to chapter 9, that's the script, okay? And you're going to read it's like, how could you end like that? Because if you are a new follower of mine, you will realize that I do things a little differently. Like, I'm not a happy ending type person, so to speak. I tend to be more on the realistic side of things. So if you read chapter 9 and it ends, that's how I really wanted it to end. But because I wanted to please the publisher and also, increase my word count, and that's really why I did it. Chapter 10 was added in there to give a little more backstory on a couple of things. I'm not going to go into what it is because all of that is spoilerish, but by chapter 9, you find out who the killer is, and that is literally how the script that was written ends. But again, let me know your thoughts in the comments below if you have read the book. Did you like it? Did you really believe the killer? Does this revelation of chapter 9 kind of change the way that you think of things? As always, you can hit me up at www.enigmakid.com. That's www.enigmakid.com. I will leave the link to the book in the description below. And as always, it's your boy Enigma signing off. Deuces.